Join us in your Ladbroke shops for the best offers for Cheltenham 2019. We're going money back on the second place runner if the SP5 wins on every race at the Cheltenham Festival. That's a free bet refund of up to €20 or £20 in all Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland shops. Ladbrokes, your home of the best value for the Cheltenham Festival 2019. Over 18s, T's and C's apply.
Welcome into Sportsmemo's betting podcast for March 13th, Wednesday. We're doing the MLS, the soccer pod, Major League Soccer with Nick Borrman. Nick, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hey, Drew. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's a big weekend in terms of obviously college basketball, but also the secondary sports, so to speak. MLS, obviously a really fast-growing sport, and I think in week 3 of that, and also golf-wise, we got the Players' Championship this weekend, right?
Yeah, Players' Championship, which normally is in May, was moved up this year to March as they changed their schedule around, so they don't compete with football later. So yeah, that's this weekend, and always a great event to watch.
Okay, so the golf scheduling, they changed everything or just this tournament?
They basically changed this tournament and the PGA Championship, and then they wanted to get the playoffs. The playoffs at the end of the year kind of ran into September. So they wanted to end before football began. So that in order to do that, they had to bump the PGA Championship which was in late August up into May, and then this Players' Championship was in May. They bumped that up to March just to accommodate that back end schedule finishing 3 weeks earlier. So these are the two biggest events that are affected. I don't think there was any minor or regular week-to-week events affected other than these two.
That's so smart from a marketing angle. I thought other sports need to do that, like the Canadian Football League. They need to move theirs up to get away from the American football. I think baseball needs to do the same as far as do something. I know in weather's an issue, but heck, play games in Central America and the Caribbean. To get away from competing with, the NFL and major college football, because so many eyeballs go to that. Like, I'll watch golf, but I'm not going to, watch it over a Saturday or Sunday, as far as watching college or pro football. But obviously you're not in that group. You're handicapping the golf, but overall, do you think it's a good marketing decision?
Oh, for sure. I mean, like you said, there's no competing with the NFL when it gets going, and even college football. I'll watch. I'm the same way. I play golf. I live golf. I love it. But I'll watch it on Thursday, Friday, and then probably not a lot. I might tune in commercial breaks, and flashback or something on Saturday, Sunday. But otherwise, it's football on the TV. So you're absolutely right. I think it's a great marketing strategy for them, and I think they'll see some good return on their viewership and overall advertising dollars as they go forward. So definitely a good move.
For sure, Nick. And this is the MLS podcast. We've been doing it every Wednesday. And, Nick's been good overall. He had a down week in the MLS. But overall, as far as his stats go, 17-3. That's 85% last 20 totals. Also 5% plays doing well, 21-11. Seeing 109-77. So a little bit longer term here, 59% in soccer totals. 30-11 his last 41 best bets. So the higher rated plays are doing well. Check out sportsmemo.com for all of his plays. He puts them up pretty early, and also has discounted packages as far as if you buy more than one in one package, more than one play in one package, usually discounted. Also, he has a special up, MLS 1 month special, normally I believe $180, discounted to just $99. You'll get 30 days of Major League Soccer betting service from Nick for just $99. It's on his homepage. You don't need a coupon code or anything like that. It's the MLS 1 month special. We'll have it up for just a little bit longer here, so check that out at sportsmemo.com. 1 month special MLS for just $99. Nick, let's start off in the MLS, top to the bottom. Seattle at Chicago. Also, so your opinion on the Seattle at Chicago game, and also in past weeks, the odds have been out by the time we've been doing our podcast. This week, not so much. What's up with that?
Yeah, so we're waiting for them. I'm hoping they come out here, sometime today. They're usually out Tuesday, maybe Wednesday morning at the latest. But my guess is they've been getting beat up a little bit and still trying to figure out these teams and maybe waiting on weather type of situations. But I would expect they got to be coming out later today. So we'll look at the games and try to give where I think the line should be and a suggestion based off of that. And hopefully we'll be able to preview some of these games and get ahead of the lines that come out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And a lot of times this is more informative as far as doing look-ahead lines. Me and Robbie Vino and I do a podcast on Friday where we look at the big college basketball Saturday card, and the lines aren't out, and he just kind of says what the odds should be. So I know listeners have commented saying they get a lot out of that, and it could actually be more informative. So we'll start at the top of the card, Seattle at Chicago. What do you think the line is, and how do you think this game goes?
Yeah, well, Seattle, I think what we're going to see here is Seattle favored probably by just a quarter of a goal. It's always hard to travel in the MLS. They're the better team, but probably just by a quarter of a goal here. And I'm thinking of a total of 2.25 in this game. Seattle, they made quick work of Colorado last week. They could score 2 goals the first 8 minutes. Raul Rudiez, he scored again for them, and he just looks awesome so far in the first 2 games. He came on strong in the second half of last year, and he looks poised to have a very good year this year. So we definitely should have saw him coming along this year. And they're one of the favorites again coming out of the West. So Seattle's going to be a strong team. Chicago, they gave up a bad goal in the first half to Orlando. In the second half to Orlando, but they salvaged a point with the draw as CJ Sapong scored in stoppage time, literally with like 10 seconds left in the game. So they earned a point and got a 1-1 draw. And that was after being down a man because they got a red card in the second half. So they were lucky to get a draw in that game. I was on Chicago to win that game. And so that was a little disappointing. They were outplayed by Orlando in that game, and I just didn't quite see that coming. It didn't help, of course, that they lost a guy with the red card. But hey, all it takes is one bad mistake in soccer, 1 goal one way, and it makes all the difference in the world. So this one is tough. I do still have Chicago as an improving team this year. They're just off to a bad start with 1 point out of their first 2 matches. They had a tough loss that first week. In this particular matchup, the thing that's worth noting is that the home team has won 4 of the past 5 meetings between these teams. And there's just been 1 draw. So really the road team hasn't had much success in this history. So I'm assuming we're going to see a quarter of a goal favorite to Seattle here. And if we do, I'm going to look to go with Chicago here at home. I think they're going to come back in this game and finally get that home win. Even if they don't get the win, I think they can earn the draw against Seattle. So I'm looking to take Chicago if they're catching anything. If it's a pick 'em price, it's probably a pass. So we'll wait and see what comes out.
Nick, next game up, we got Dallas at Columbus. What do you think the line is, and how do you think this game goes?
I think we're going to see Columbus favored as money line favorites, meaning half goal favorites here in this game. They're a tough team at home. Last year they were 12-2-3 at home with a +17 differential, and they beat Dallas 2-1 at home. So they're a very strong side in front of their home fans. They earned a good win last week, actually at New England. They won 2-0. They look pretty much like the same team last year as far as how they're creating chances and how they're playing offense. And their keeper, Zach Steffen, he saved a penalty in the second half last week against New England to keep them up 1-0. If that didn't happen, that game could have been completely different. But he's really good. He was signed by Manchester City, actually, and is going to join them in July. So it's going to be tough for them later in the year when they lose their keeper for the rest of the year. So hopefully they can get their points early in the season because I don't know much about their backup, but we'll see how he is. But he's definitely a brilliant keeper for them. So that'll be a big loss. Dallas, they played great last week. They beat the Galaxy 2-0 at home. They limited the Galaxy to just 1 shot on goal, which is really good. And they limited New England in the first game to just 2 shots on goal. So just 3 shots total on goal conceded by Dallas in their first 2 games. So their defense has looked really good so far. This is their first road match, though, of the year, and traveling to Columbus is never an easy thing, especially, cold weather type of situation. You got Dallas coming all the way up to Columbus, so they may struggle a little bit there. I think, like I said, we're going to see that Columbus line come out here at -0.5 goal, and I think that's the way to play it. They're just too good at home, and I think Dallas, first time on the road, is probably going to struggle a little bit. So Columbus, 0.5 goal, if that line comes out, is the way to play this one.
Next game up, we got Vancouver at Houston, the road team, which, as I've learned from you, it is always up against it as far as the odds go. It's hard to win on the road in the MLS. Vancouver's sitting at 0-2. I'd likely think that they're going to be a heavy underdog here, but how do you view the Whitecaps this week?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think Houston's going to be a full goal favorite when the Lions come out here. Vancouver, they have not looked good. They lost again last week at Real Salt Lake. It was a questionable penalty in that game that was handed to Salt Lake. That you take that for what it's worth. We were on Salt Lake as a free play last week, so happy that it happened, of course. But otherwise, they played okay against Salt Lake. They really weren't able to control a lot of the ball possession, though, so they were kind of sitting back on their heels most of that game. So, I'm not quite too high on them this year. I don't think they're going to come out and impress at all. I think they're going to drop a little bit in the standings going into this year. Houston, they beat Montreal 2-1 at home last week, which was impressive because they actually rotated their side quite a bit. They had a CONCACAF Champions League matchup this week, which is it's like MLS versus Mexico Champions League that goes on this time of year. So they actually had a match last night. They lost 0-1. So last weekend they rotated their squad so they'd have a lot of their best starting 11 available for last night's match. So they still are able to win 2-1, which was impressive. But I think they'll have their full squad here in this match now that they've been eliminated from the Champions League, and I think they're going to be able to take Vancouver and beat them. The fact that it's at -1, though, I don't think there's a lot of value there. If perhaps Houston comes out at less than a goal favorite, I think Houston would be the way to play it. But if we see Houston at 1 or even more than that, I think this is a pass on this one, Drew.
Yeah, Nick, that's pretty cool. So the Houston team played one of the top 3 teams from the Mexico League?
Yeah, so they have they play kind of like the Champions League in Europe. They have 2-leg ties, and they have the top I think it's 6 teams from each side from Mexico and it's actually all Central America, but Mexico is mainly where the best teams are, and they play this time of year until we get a champion. So, yeah, they played last night. They lost the 2-legged battle, and they're knocked out, of course. Usually you don't see in the history of this tournament, usually you see Mexico come out on top. The MLS does not quite have the players and, I guess, the depth over the years as Mexico does. They've been around a lot longer than the MLS has. I think as we go forward, you're going to see some MLS teams compete a little bit better because they're getting better. The league is getting deeper. It's certainly growing, as we've talked about before. But right now, Mexico has dominated this tournament over the years. But it's fun to watch.
Yeah, and so it's all of Central America, and there's 6 teams. Do you know the disparity of teams as far as, like, is there 1 from Costa Rica and 5 from Mexico? And did any of them?
There's a little bit, there's qualification that goes on. So by the time you get to this stage where they're doing the actual knockout rounds, generally it's I don't know that there's anybody from Costa Rica in there. It's generally the Mexico teams that you're seeing here.
Okay. I know just from living down there, Costa Rica was always like, oh, we're just behind Mexico, as far as like the best Central American country in soccer. But I'm starting to realize Mexico is quite a bit ahead of Costa Rica, huh?
Yeah, they've been around a long time. Their league's pretty deep. MLS pulls guys from Mexico. Europe often pulls guys from Mexico. They have a lot of talent in that league for sure.
And does Mexico ever pull guys from the MLS?
If it's happened, it's only started to happen recently. I don't know a big name example that I could throw out you, but I'm sure there's some smaller guys that have happened over the recent years. But generally, it's the other way around right now.
Okay, and we're talking with Nick Borrman on Twitter at Borrman00. Also, check out his 1-month MLS special up at sportsmemo.com for just $99. You'll get the next 30 days of service in the MLS. It's almost $100 off the retail price, and no coupon code needed. It's right at sportsmemo.com. 1-month MLS special for just $99. Next game up, Nick, we got San Jose at the New York Red Bulls. San Jose 0-2. And looks like goal differential lowest in the league. So having to go on the road, I'm guessing they're going to be a hefty underdog here.
Yeah, San Jose, they stink, Drew. They were not good last year. They're not going to be good again this year. They got beat handily by Minnesota on Saturday. They lost 0-3, and they lost 0-2 in the first game. So -5 on the differential after 2 games already, like you just mentioned. Haven't scored a goal yet. And those games were both at home. So now they hit the road for the first time this season and have to travel all the way across the country. Not a good omen for these guys. The Red Bulls, they were great last year. They're one of the favorites coming out of the East again. They really took care of San Jose both matches last year. They won 5-1 at home, and they won 3-1 in San Jose. So you can just see the disparity of the level between these two teams. New New York actually did not play last week. They were off, and they had a CONCACAF matchup last night as well. But they lost 4-2, and they're knocked out of the tournament as well. So you can see the common theme here is that the MLS teams at this point of the tournament are getting knocked out. Even Atlanta, they played tonight. They're losing from the first leg, so they have I think they're down 3-0. They have a big deficit to overcome. So I think we're not going to see many situations here where we have to worry about these midweek CONCACAF matchups coming up. But I don't think it's going to factor into their freshness in this game. I think they're rather going to come in looking to rebound from being knocked out of that tournament. And San Jose is a good team to be able to rebound against. So the line I'm looking at, I think it's going to come out -1.25 goals. I don't know if it's going to be as high as -1.5, but I'm thinking -1.25 goals here for New York. Little higher than I'd like, but I don't think they're going to have much problem covering it. So I would definitely go with New York on this one, even land that number, but maybe just be a little cautious with what you're throwing at this game. Keep it a little lower, but New York is the play here for sure.
All right, Nick, we got Montreal at Orlando, the Canadian team making the trip to Florida. Montreal Impact, I believe. How do you view the pricing on this one?
Yeah, so two teams. Orlando, neither one of them's that great. Orlando really struggled last year. They had the worst defense in the league, but they've earned now 2 draws in the first 2 weeks this year after they earned that point at Chicago this week. And again, I don't think they're going to be good at all this year, but the good news for them is they're ahead of where they were last year, as they had just 1 point through 3 games last year. They have 2 points through 2 games so far this year. So I guess you got to find the positivity when you're looking at these teams. Montreal, they lost 0-2 at Houston, and as we mentioned before, Houston rotated their side. So they didn't look good as they traveled to Houston. Luckily, they're home here. But neither team's going to be good this year. Montreal, they're usually not a possession type of a team. They're a team that kind of sits back in the counter and tries to score that way. But when you look at the numbers from that Houston game, they actually held the possession edge in that stat sheet, but it didn't help them. They still lost 2-0. So I don't know if that was a good thing for them. Their star, Ignacio Piatti, he was kept quiet in that game. So, they go as he goes. So it's really all about trying to control him up front. I think we're going to see probably Montreal as a 1/4 of a goal line favorite. So I think, Orlando traveling all the way up there is probably going to be tough. I don't think Orlando will come out with a point in this game. I think Montreal is the way to play it. If we can get them, if it does come out as a 1/4 of a goal, that means they'll probably be +120 to +130 on the money line. So pretty decent value there, in my opinion. So I would look to play Montreal as a small underdog favorite, which is kind of weird to say, but they'll be getting a plus money line price here as a favorite. So I think that's the way to play this one, Drew.
All right, Nick. Next game up, we got Real Salt Lake at DC United.
Yes, DC, one of the top teams in the league. I think we're going to see them as a 3/4 goal line favorite in this one. I don't think we'll see a full goal come out here. Last week, they earned a 0-0 draw at New York, which is actually impressive considering the fact that the field conditions at Yankee Stadium were really bad last week. There was a lot of talk after the game about the conditions there, and it's just because it's Northeast and nothing's growing this time of year, and you go outside anywhere up this way and all the grass looks like crap. But they were lucky to earn a draw there. New York actually was the better team. They gave up. DC, gave up numerous chances to New York in that game, so they were lucky to get a point. But a point is always good on the road in the MLS, so they're happy with that. Salt Lake, they earned a 1-0 win against Vancouver, thanks to a questionable penalty call that we talked about before. But they didn't really control the game as I expected them to. They were able to draw at Houston in their first game of the year, but Houston was probably the better team in that game. So, I've kind of not gotten a great read on Salt Lake. I don't think, last year they came on strong in the second half, but they don't look like they're starting off this year so well. So I think DC is going to return home here, be able to get the win. As long as we see a line under -1, I think DC is the way to play this one.
All right, Nick, we got Minnesota at the LA Galaxy up next. Minnesota, I believe, 2-0, +4 on goal differential, so looking strong there. How do you think they'll do on the road?
Yeah, so we've talked about it over the last 2 podcasts, but I'm high on Minnesota this year. They were not good last year. Their defensive numbers, they were second worst in the league as far as goals conceded, but they made a lot of changes over the offseason with 4 big name signings. And obviously, you just said the numbers. So far, so good for them. 2 victories, +4 on the goal differential. They cruised to a 3-0 win at San Jose this past weekend. And I think they're going to be a pretty solid team this year. I don't think they're going to be competing necessarily for the MLS Cup, but they're definitely a playoff caliber team. And I think they'll be looking at maybe a top 4, top 5 spot in the conference. So good improvement for them coming into this year. The Galaxy, they lost last weekend 0-2 at Dallas, but they didn't have Zlatan Ibrahimovic playing. He was out with an Achilles injury. So I haven't heard yet what they're expecting out of him if he's going to be playing in this game. So a lot of this line is going to be based on that result, whether he's playing or not. They're going to be an offensive juggernaut this year. Of course, they hope Zlatan's going to be back in this game, but they're one of those teams that likes to put up goals, and then because they do that, they press high on there. They often give up a lot of goals. So I think we're going to see a high total here. Most likely, we'll see LA favored at home, probably at a half a goal, especially if Zlatan's playing. But the way Minnesota's playing, their confidence is high. They're looking good on defense. I like them catching the number. If they're getting a half a goal here, I think that's the way to go. And if we see a total at 3, I would definitely look to the over. But I'm guessing we're going to see a 3.25 goal or possibly 3.5 goal line come out. And I would probably pass on that one. But if it's 3, I would go over. And Minnesota pretty much catching anything here, I think, is the way to play this one, Drew.
And we got LAFC at New York City FC as well. Another 2-0 team with a +4 goal differential going on the road, this time cross-country. How do you see this one?
Yeah, LAFC, nobody really looks better than them right now. They've looked really strong. They beat the MLS Cup finalist Portland last week. They beat them 4-1. They really controlled that game. And they beat Kansas City 2-1 on opening weekend, another top team in the West. So they've looked really good, beating 2 strong teams in their first 2 games. Carlos Vela for them looked really good again with a goal and 3 assists, and I think he's going to have a huge year for these guys. New York City seems to be doing okay so far. They lost their 2 big names on offense, David Villa and Yangel Herrera. I kind of predicted them to have a drop this year due to that, and it's still early, but they're definitely playing better than I thought they would be. Last week they earned they were unlucky to earn a draw against DC. They really dominated that game, just weren't able to quite punch it in the net. So, LAFC is the better team. And I think that this is just a kind of a tough spot for them. Both of their wins were at home, and this is going to be their first traveling game. So going over the way to New York City, and again, we talked about it before, having the field conditions at Yankee Stadium not being very good right now, I think that gives a pretty good advantage to New York because obviously they're playing on it, they're used to it. So I think we're going to see this line come out as a pick'em price. And at that, there's not a lot of value. But if we happen to see New York catching anything at home, plus a quarter of a goal, plus a half of a goal, that's definitely the way to play this game. But it might be worth throwing a few bucks on, even at a pick 'em price, because at least you're not going to lose your bet if they do draw out. But I think it's just a tough spot here for LAFC, even though I do think they're the better team.
We got at Borman00 on Twitter. That's where you can follow Nick. Good follow there. Also, golf and soccer aficionado. Obviously knows the stuff in the MLS. We got Portland, the aforementioned Portland team, the championship contender last year at Cincinnati. How do you view this game?
Yeah, Portland just talked about them getting beat handily at LAFC last week. And to make matters worse, one of their important midfielders, Diego Chara, was handed a second yellow card, meaning he's going to be out and suspended for this match. So that's not a good sign for them. He's critical for that team in the midfield, and they're going to miss him for sure. They drew at Colorado in their first game, so 1 point through 2 games for them. MLS Cup finalists last year is not exactly what they were looking for to start this year. And this is the home opener for expansion side Cincinnati. So I think the energy will be high for this team, being able to play in front of their home fans for the first time in the Major League Soccer. They earned an impressive 1-1 draw at Atlanta last week, which was a big surprise. They scored late in that game after the 80th minute to pull even 1-1. And, I think confidence is going to be high. Energy is going to be high. I think we'll probably see Cincy catching a quarter of a goal, maybe even a half a goal here in this game, just because they're the new kids on the block, and Portland has that good record from last year. But so far, what I've seen out of Portland, and the fact that they're going to be down a very vital player for them, and I think the home opener and some good energy and confidence going with Cincy, I think Cincy catching the goals here at home will be the play. If we see anything opposite that at like a pick 'em price or whatever, or Cincy favored, which they won't be, then I would lay off this one. But I think Cincy catching anything at home is the way I would look at this one, Drew.
In the team that played Portland in the championship game, I believe, the Atlanta United, the defending champions here, hosting Philadelphia. How do you view Philly, Atlanta?
Atlanta, they're going to come out as favorites here, probably at a full goal, -1 goals. But, right now they have 1 point through their first 2 games. They lost at DC the first game, and then, as we just talked about, they just earned a draw against Cincy in their home opener last week, which is certainly a bad result for them. So disappointing start for them. They got a new manager, Frank DeBoer, this year, who really could have come in here and just put the team on autopilot and kept the same kind of offensive strategy they had last year, which was press high and hit them hard in the attack. But any manager that comes in wants to kind of put their fingerprints on the team, and so far he has them playing a little bit back more than they were last year. So they don't look nearly as aggressive. They don't look nearly as confident as they're trying to get used to the new lineups. So right now it's not a great start for Atlanta. And there's already talk about him being on the hot seat, which 2 games into the season I think is a little too early to say that, but there's already people kind of going after him because they only got 1 point after 2 matches. So I think they'll be able to come out and probably earn this win here. Philly, they haven't looked good. They're 0-2 now to start the year. They lost to Toronto the first week at home, then they lost at Kansas City last week, which wasn't a bad loss as expected. Kansas City's a tough place to play. Their new signing, Marco Fabian, received a straight red card in that match, so he's going to be suspended for this game. So I think Atlanta will earn the win here. If they are, again, I think the line's going to come out -1, so there's probably not a ton of value either way here. And I think the best play, if it does come out there, is just to sit back and pass on this one. If Atlanta happens to come out at less than a goal favorite, I would probably back Atlanta, but I think we're going to see them at least a goal here. So I'm going to pass on this one, Drew.
So the Atlanta United are 0-2, and do you think that's kind of like a Super Bowl hangover, so to speak, or is this something else going on?
Well, they're 0-1-1. They drew last week.
Okay.
But I don't think that's the case as much. I think what you have going on is the fact that their manager wants to change their tactics, and they're just not used to playing the way the style that he's used to, and the style that they're trying to get him to. They also lost Miguel Almiron to Newcastle. He was transferred to the Premier League actually in January. So he was a big part of this team last year and set up a ton of chances for Joseph Martinez up front. So they did pick up a new signing, Pity Martinez, who was a South American player of the year last year. So, I think it's just getting used to a couple personnel changes and, some tactical changes. I think they'll straighten it out. I think they'll still be one of the top teams come the year end. But I think it's, if they didn't have those 2 things going on, I think they probably would have started out just fine. But, anytime you have change like that, it's always difficult.
All right, Nick, good stuff. We got 2 games left here. New England at Toronto. How do you view it?
Toronto's probably going to come out here as a half goal line favorite. Total is probably going to be set over 3 here. Toronto loves to score when they're at home. They did not play last week. They've only played the 1 match. They won 3-1 at Philly. Over the winter, they lost their playmaker, Sebastian Giovinco, last year. He was their best goal scorer over the last 4 seasons. He was traded or transferred out of here to a team in Saudi Arabia. And Josie Altidore actually didn't play. Yeah,
that's kind of funny.
Didn't play last week, the first week. So this will be his opening game of the year. So I think Toronto will be the play in this one. New England, they're New England. They struggle when they get on the road. They struggle against the better teams in the league, and I don't see much different for them so far this year. So I like Toronto to earn the home win here, and they're desperate to get off to a good start after a really disappointing year last year. So I like Toronto here in this one, Drew.
All right, man, and in conclusion, we got KC at Colorado. I'm guessing this one is in Denver, although I don't know, maybe it's in another city, but Denver. So how much does elevation play into this?
Yeah, Salt Lake is a big one. Colorado is not quite as good of a team as Salt Lake. The reason I mentioned them is because they had one of the better records in the home records in all of Major League Soccer last year, and they're a good team, and people struggle when they come in here. Denver, they just never have been quite good enough a team to really take advantage of it, I guess you can say, but it is certainly a factor. The other thing this time of year playing in Colorado is the temperatures. The first week they played, they had a crazy snow game they were playing in, so you never really know. You got to really watch the weather when you're looking at these games in Colorado. I think what we're going to see here is Kansas City favored, probably by a quarter of a goal, maybe by a half of a goal. They lost a heartbreaker week 1 against LAFC. Last year, they had the most points in the regular season in the West, and they're once again one of the favorites over there. They had the best road record, actually, in the entire league last year. So, they should rightfully be favorites here, but they've actually struggled traveling to Colorado as they've not won in their last 4 trips here, including just a 2-2 draw last year. So even though they're really, on paper, a much, much better team than Colorado, they haven't had the best results traveling to Colorado, and maybe that's something to do with what you said, the elevation there, Drew. Colorado, as I mentioned, they played that weird snow game that first week, and then they were brought back down to earth last week where they lost 0-2 at Seattle, which really isn't a bad loss. But Portland, Seattle, and Kansas City to open the year for Colorado is tough, man. Schedule makers were not on their side coming into this year. So Kansas City, the one thing Colorado does have working for them this week is Kansas City had a Champions League match. Actually, they have it tomorrow. So they're going to probably be feeling a little bit of the effects of that game playing on Sunday, just 3 days rest. So we'll see what comes out here, but I'm assuming Colorado is going to be catching a quarter of a goal, maybe half a goal. And I'm going to look at Colorado in this game just for the reason of fatigue for Kansas City and the fact that they haven't had good results traveling to Colorado over the years. So I like Colorado catching pretty much anything if we can get that number here in this game, Drew.
All right, Nick, great stuff. As always, check out Nick's page on sportsmemo.com. We got the MLS 1 month special still available for just $99. That's 30 days of service. Follow Nick on Twitter at Borman00. 17-3 his last 20 totals. Also 21-11, 5% top rated plays. 18-10 in soccer, and just 3-1 in golf. So we get the Players' Championship this weekend. It'll be up with plays there at sportsmemo.com. Also the 1 month special in the MLS for just $99. Guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll have Teddy Covers on tomorrow talking NBA and college basketball. Best of luck with your bets tonight.
Join us in your Ladbroke shops for the best offers for Cheltenham 2019. We're going money back on the second place runner if the SP5 wins on every race at the Cheltenham Festival. That's a free bet refund of up to €20 or £20 in all Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland shops. Ladbrokes, your home of the best value for the Cheltenham Festival 2019. Over 18s, T's and C's apply.
Cheltenham Festival is here. And so is another big BruceBetting.com racing special. New and existing customers. Place a bet on the first race each day of Cheltenham. Get your money back as a free bet if it loses. Stay close to the action with BruceBetting.com. In-store, online, and on your phone. Bruce Betting, giving you more. Please gamble responsibly.